Who is the worst batter you've ever bowled to?
You.
Yeah, fair.
There was 30,000 people at the Gabba singing Broady, and I was actually like leading it, flipping the bails with Labuschagne when he was batting. I talked absolute nonsense before the series. Then to get Marner's first ball was quite cool. Yeah, I actually asked to do that press conference, which was unusual when you've been bowled out for 56.
Why didn't you walk? What's the reason? How's it going, guys? Welcome back to the Cricket District Show, the first one of 2025, and it's a pretty cool one. I've got Stuart Broad alongside me. We're here in Johannesburg covering the wonderful SA20 competition. Broady, how are you?
I'm great, thank you.
Been a good tournament?
Great tournament, yeah. It's I think watching and covering cricket in South Africa and playing cricket in South Africa is one of the greatest countries. You always get good support, good atmospheres at the grounds, particularly grounds like St George's Park where the Orange Army are. It's just an electric place to watch cricket. And we've had some brilliant players on show. I think Joe Root probably stands out as the player I've enjoyed watching the most. Obviously I've watched a huge amount of him in the same side of his, but just seeing how he develops over time and helps players around him has been pretty awesome. And there's some young South African talent it's a country that's always produced unbelievable cricketers, hasn't it? When you like A.B. de Villiers and Callis and bowlers of Pollock and Donald and Philander, guys like this, Stain. So there's a lot of talent coming through as well. So yeah, it's been a really, really good tournament to be at.
I remember you saying South Africa is one of your favourite touring destinations, playing Test cricket for England. What's it been like commentating? You've had a bit more time to explore the country, eat good food, drink good wine.
Yeah, it's an amazing country. It was a brilliant place to tour because people love their sport, cricket here, but it's not like Australia where they just want you to lose all the time. Do you know what I mean? How to explain? If you'd be in a restaurant here playing for England, they'd be like, hope you enjoy our country, hope you love what we have to offer. Of course we hope we beat you, but I hope it's entertaining. Whereas the Aussies would be like, I hope you lose every second. It's like, okay, cool. So it was always a brilliant place to tour, a great place to bowl as well, which always helped. But covering it as a commentator has been great because you get to see more of it. You don't have the training days, so to speak. So I get to spend good time with a lot of great people. Played a lot of golf with Ruti, which was great because not seen a huge amount of him since I stepped away from the playing side. So I had time to do that. So yeah, I've spent a lot of time in Cape Town and followed the sunrises quite a bit on the Eastern Cape. So I've not been in Joburg that much, but it's a wonderful place to be.
Final bit on the tournament itself. I believe you backed Sunrise Eastern Cape to win the whole thing. They've had a pretty topsy-turvy tournament, but they've somehow made it to the final. We're recording this ahead of the final. By the time this goes out, you will know the result and the winners. Potentially a three-peat for the Sunrisers or MI Cape Town coming good. Could you give us your predictions, please?
Can we edit this after the final? So
yeah.
That's good. I have backed the Sunrise all the way through just because I think they've got a group of players, quite a tight-knit group, which can be quite rare in franchise cricket, but they've got players who are just consistent performers, although they lost the first 3 games of this season 3. Marco Jansen, for me, if I was a director of any franchise in the world, he'd be top of my list to go and get. Left arm pace and can whack it from 7 downwards, so he's an amazing cricketer. Tristan Stubbs is one of my favourite young players going around, just the way he shapes up. He's not had a brilliant season 3 in the SA20, but he's just a great talent going forward. Aidan Markram as captain, very smart. He's one of these players who I feel plays for the team at all times, which is quite difficult in the franchise world. A lot of the time the players are focused on what they can do to sort of maybe benefit them in the future. But I look at Markram, he's not bothered about his personal strike rate, anything like that. He just wants to get runs on the board for his team. So they've got a great base of people and players to make them successful. That's why I've backed them even when they were losing. But then my Cape Town, Rickerton, Van der Dusen have been unbelievable. Brevis, who I've heard a lot about for 2 years now. And before this tournament, I hadn't seen him, I think, hit a boundary, let alone score runs. But this year he's been phenomenal. He's been awesome. So he's been really exciting to watch. And anytime you've got Rabada and Bolt on your side, and Rashid Khan, to be fair, you stand a good chance. So what's been brilliant about this tournament is I think the best 2 teams made the final. And you can't predict the final, which is how finals should be. Yeah,
fingers crossed. You guys are watching this, you're aware of the game being an absolute thriller going down to the final ball. Moving on from SA20, you're heading home to spend some valuable time with your family, I'm sure. What are some big things coming up for you in 2025?
Well, just looking at following the England cricket team, India at home, 5 tests, always drama, always exciting, always close games. So I think that's going to be phenomenal. And then part of the undercurrent of that series is going to an away Ashes series. So there's going to be talk about that. I know the team will be going, we'll hear a lot from Stokesy and Baz as, one game at a time, it's all about this Indian series. But of course, in our jobs, we'll be wondering what's happening to the squad and Australia. So
is Ashes still bigger than an India series? I mean, England-India, 5 tests.
Yeah,
that
I think it is.
People get hung up on previewing an Ashes tour and that being the biggest thing, but it is ultimately the biggest test, isn't it?
I think it's what you're judged on as maybe not judged on as a player, but very iconic moments in our sport come from Ashes cricket and England-India. England-India, for the quality of cricket, is sometimes better. They're always brilliant series, and particularly India-Australia series always seem to light up, don't they? But just the history of Ashes cricket, how difficult it is to go and win in Australia. This is our best chance since 2010, without a doubt. So there's going to be a lot of conversations about that. But the India series will be really cool. Does Virat come? Does he have a big part to play there? I think so. I think you got to bring him and bat him at 4. Have that bit of experience around some of their young, exciting talent. But a few questions for England to answer as well. Really, in a positive way, we've got one too many batters. So how does that work out? Zach Crawley's having a really tough time of it at the moment, but we know how backed he is within that change room and from the hierarchy, Rob Key, etc. So there's some interesting dynamics there that will play out a bit in the summer.
Really exciting year to be a cricket fan. Let's move on then. We've got loads of questions from our followers. So let's get stuck into a bit of a Q&A if that's cool with you. First one up from Olivia. Which current player do you think will have the best career in media/commentating?
Currently playing?
Yeah.
Good question. I think Joe Root has played so much wonderful cricket, knows so much about batting and captaincy and etc. that his knowledge for the game, he's a student of the game. He absolutely loves everything about it. So his knowledge of the game would make him a really good pundit, but also make him a really good coach. And you don't want to drag too many great minds away from the coaching side to develop the next talent. So I feel like Joe Root could be that sort of Ricky Ponting role, where he's a brilliant analyst, but also does part coaching as well. But we want him to keep batting for a bit of time yet, don't we?
Was coaching ever an option for you?
I want to coach, at some stage. I think I love talking bowling, and I went through loads of different ups and downs in my career, which I think helps with coaching, and the fact that I had to work a lot technically. I wasn't that naturally gifted, so I had to work on the game and understand the game to get better. The difficult thing with coaching, I've got 2 young kids, is you can't control your diary at all. If the job comes up, you take it and you go. So the punditry side I really love. I love talking about the game, and that was something I wanted to pursue for a while. But I'll definitely do some coaching when the time comes.
Cool. Second question comes from Hannah. We've mentioned the Ashes. How does the atmosphere compare in a home versus away Ashes series? I imagine the fans are slightly less friendly down under.
The atmosphere as an England player is the complete opposite, as you would imagine. The thing about playing in England in an England Ashes series, when you're building up to the series, the talk, you queue for a coffee and someone go, good luck this summer, come beat the Aussies, all that sort of thing. So it's all very upbeat and positive and awesome to be a part of. When you go to Australia, it's the flip side. It's very much like the whole country's here to beat you. So you need to steel yourself up for that. But both places are amazing places to play cricket. You walk out at the Adelaide Oval and the Sydney Cricket Ground and you're like, wow, how cool is it that I get to play here and experience this, as you do at Trent Bridge and Lords and the Oval. It's that sort of feeling. So the atmosphere are very different, but fortunately for us, we're incredibly supported wherever we go as an England team. The Barmy Army are arguably louder than any crowd that the Aussies bring towards us. So it's you always feel really well supported. However the tour is going, we've had some pretty tough times there in recent times. But I think this forthcoming Ashes series is going to be one for the ages, really, if England can start well.
Yeah, Aussie media go after you a bit, don't they? I mean, just memories of that front page Courier Mail.
The Ghost, the medium page trundler or something. Yeah.
What was that like?
Really funny, I thought.
Really? Because how old were you when all that happened?
What would I have been?
Mid-20s?
Yeah, 24, 25.
To have the front page of a national newspaper.
Yeah, I think it's part and parcel of the job.
Really?
But I think that was maybe taken. That was all came from Darren Lehman's comments, wasn't it? You know, he did a breakfast radio show from England, so late at night, and he made some comments that were out of order, really, but revved up the Aussie crowd and media. So. Yeah, it was. I trained for it. I trained my brain for it. I worked with a psychologist to sort of steel my brain. Did things in the warm-up games to get used to hearing abuse and that sort of thing. I read Alex Ferguson's book actually, and he talked a lot about Patrick Vieira and how he saw it as a sign of respect if you got abuse from the crowd, because if they don't care about you, they just won't mention you. So I sort of. The most boring saying in the world is, we found the positives, isn't it? But that was my little positive in it. And ultimately, I quite enjoyed it. It's not every day you get 30,000 people singing your swear word, is it? So.
Go for it.
Honestly, at the
so you're able to even enjoy it in that moment?
Yeah,
a lot of players would crumble. And actually, even now, I think, in terms of the conversations around mental health and player welfare, that kind of thing would be bang out of order. So the fact that it was water off a duck's back for you is pretty impressive.
Yeah, so I wanted to engage with the crowd. I thought if I try and ignore them and hide away from them, it's just going to get louder. So I wanted to become like the conductor, and there was 30,000 people at the Gabba singing Broady, and I was actually leading it. Yeah. And honestly, for 4 days, all I could whistle in my brain was Broady, and it was quite a unique experience. But. Not that many people in the world can say that many people have sung that about them, which is quite fun.
Yeah, they've sung your name.
And I actually, I got 6 from that day one, and I walked in with that paper that wouldn't mention me under my arm, which now I knew we were going to get bowled out for 100 or something I wouldn't have done, but we were in a good position at the time. That
chimes in perfectly with our next question. Was it always your intention to wind up teams, players and fans, and if so, why?
So that, towards the end of the career, yes, but that, I was walking into the press conference and there was just a pile of this paper that had been abusing me for a week. I don't know if someone planted it there. Yeah. There's just a pile of them. They didn't sell very well, obviously, because it was and I just picked it up and rolled it under my arm and walked into the press conference, and that's where that came from. It wasn't planned. They were literally a big pile of them just by the entrance, so I picked it up. But by the end, all those things about flipping the bails with Labuschagne when he was batting, all that was, not planned in a sense that I thought of that at the time, but I understood the psychology of the sport better, of how to change people's rhythm, the balance, leading into the 2023 Ashes series, talking about creating a away swinger to Smith and Labuschagne, but absolute nonsense.
Really?
The away swinger's been in the game 100 years, hasn't it? But I sort of, Warner used to do it all the time, didn't he? I've created a new ball. So I wanted those guys who I've struggled to bowl at, or did struggle to bowl at, because I was a nip backer, and they're susceptible to the outside edge. So they always covered the stumps really well to me. So I thought I need to create a bit of doubt in their mind as to what's coming. And I was working on the odd big away swinger just to get in someone's brain with Kevin Shine at Notts. So I mentioned it, I just threw it out there and said, designed at Marnus and Smith is a big away swinger to try and get the outside edge, because that's their weakness. And then for Marnus to nick the first ball I bowled at him was just, I don't think I've ever run more excited around.
I think the last wicket of your career, out swinger to Alex Carey, caught, and you then, the celebration and the noise that day was
that whole test match still feels like a bit of a dream to me. But I think just doing a Warney and a McGrath, in a sense, I've talked absolute nonsense before the series.
Yeah.
Then to get Marnus' first ball was quite cool.
Fantastic.
With the away swinger, Johnny took it. But that's the drama that Ashes series brings, I think. So I didn't answer your question, but yes, I quite deliberately wound people up, in a sense that I thought psychologically it could gain me the advantage.
Yeah, you had a lot of fun, didn't you?
Yeah.
In fact, one of my favourite moments, I remember being just on the corner of a press conference in Auckland, England having been skittled for, I want to say, something like 56. And the sandpaper gate had just broken. And someone asked you about the Aussies and their use of sandpaper potentially during the Ashes series just passed. And you said, it's interesting that they would change their tactics, having It worked so well for them previously.
Yeah, I actually asked to do that press conference, which was unusual.
You got asked to put up.
Yeah, unusual when you've been bowled out for 56. But it was a remark that I still get tweets now that people seem to enjoy.
So great. Next question is from Sam, and it is, who is the worst batter you've ever bowled to?
You.
Yeah, fair.
I think.
Yeah.
Oh, lucky Toby.
Since turning professional, I think you. So I haven't played any club cricket. No offence.
No, but none taken.
I think you compared to like Tendulkar and Lara, Ponting, Steve Smith, Kohli, Ruti, Kane Williamson.
Yeah.
A.B. de Villiers, Callis.
Okay, cool. And on the professional circuit, who's the worst batter?
You're the worst. Stats-wise, the worst would be a number 11 batter called Chris Martin. Chris Martin, or is he the singer of Colt?
Both, same name.
Is it? Good bowler, but when he came out to bat, he just looked like he couldn't bat. It's like it's almost as if, as he put his pads on right, and he averaged something like 2. But he was horrendous to bowl at because
the pressure.
You had the ball in your hand. Everyone on that field is saying, well, just hit the stumps, he's out.
Yeah.
And if he hit you for 4, he's like doubling his average. So that's like really embarrassing. So I actually really didn't like bowling at him. I found it stressful because the expectancy was there to knock him over. And if you didn't hit the stumps and you got a play and miss, that was a fail. Whereas if you get a play and miss from Kohli, that's like a win. You know what I mean? So yeah, I really didn't enjoy bowling at him, but he was the worst.
Is there a great story about why he was such a terrible batter?
Well, I'd heard that he used to go to cricket training cycling on a bike, so he couldn't carry his batting kit. So he just tied his bowling boots around his neck and went to training. So he never actually practiced it.
Same.
Whether that's exactly true or not, only he will know. But yeah, you know when someone walks to the crease and you just know they can't bat? He was that.
Yeah. Okay, feel free to say you don't want to answer this one, but I think you might. Multiple people in our DMs and yours have said, why didn't you walk? What's the reason?
Never walked.
No.
I try to think of players that I have played with that have walked. I think the worst type of walker is the ones who sometimes walk and sometimes don't, because then there's no clarity at all. And the only player I played with that walked was Graham Swan. Because he just hit it to cover, he caught cover and off he went. But I never walked, so just because the Aussies had burnt their reviews didn't mean that I was just going to walk off because they made that mistake. And ultimately, the bit that's so weird about that is I got a fine nick onto Brad Haddon's glove. He dropped it and it went to first slip. So it wasn't actually a big nick to first slip, but I understand why people make this mistake. So when they watch it in real time, it does look like it went straight to first slip.
I think that's why Brad Haddon brings it up so much, is he wants to absolve himself.
But also, the irony of the whole situation is, how did that Test match finish? One of the greatest finishes of all time. Brad Haddon had a big drive at Jimmy,
he got caught behind,
inside nick, not out. Why didn't he walk? We reviewed it, massive nick, out, we won the game. And I still look at that, like, we won by 13 runs. If I'd have walked off, I got 60 odd, I was on 20 odd or something, we'd have lost the game. So it was just never a consideration for me.
No, great answer. Another moment that you'll get asked about a lot, and for some reason it's in every single comment of a video that you're involved in, it's about Yuvraj. So the question comes from Manoj: how do you reflect on Yuvraj's 6 sixes?
Yeah, I mean, something that I obviously wish didn't happen to me, but I think something that made me quite a steely cricketer and improved me a huge amount. I think I've never watched it back, first of all. I've seen the odd clip, but never watched it through because I don't need to. I knew how it felt. I knew what mistakes I made. When I look back, I learned about routines because I didn't have a routine. I hadn't even marked my run-up out before bowling that over. It was never the plan for me to bowl that sort of late. It was like a bit of a scramble, you're bowling. Okay, so I had to mark my run-up out. Hadn't even looked, it was sort of batting or position and field placements and stuff. So had no real plan going into the over, which hurts you, obviously, naturally. But I think ultimately what I look back on is the fact that we were already out of the tournament. So it didn't cost us a World Cup spot or anything like that. So we were already booked to fly the next day. So I think if it had have knocked us out of the tournament or lost us a final or something, I'd have been devastated. But ultimately, it was dead rubber. So it didn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. And I tried to bowl 6 of the same deliveries and should have known after 2 it wasn't working. So I never bowled 6 of the same deliveries again. Always mixed up with a bouncer or a slower ball. Ultimately, it was incredible hitting. You know, it's not like they were sneaking over the boundary. Although the leg side boundary was hitting with the wind, it was really small, but they weren't creeping over the boundary. It was incredible striking, and it was just one of those things that happened. You know, I was a young guy that had never really bowled at the death, had no experience of it, and my brain sort of I had no composure. I didn't think about anything. Do you know what I mean? I just turned and went. So the positive in it, I think, is sports people generally go through the same sort of pattern. You can burst on the scene, you get to 25, 26 and you think you've sort of made it, you stop really driving yourself forward and you have a slow period in your career from 26 to 29, then you work it out again and you finish your career strong. Whereas because that happened to me at 20 or 21, that got rid of my sort of dead period in the middle of my early 20s, late mid 20s. So I realised, okay, well, I'm not good enough at this level. I need to work at these. I need to get this. I need to get that. So by the time I was 25, 26, I'd experienced a lot. I knew my game, and I'd say I had 10 years at the top of my game. Does that make sense? So I didn't do that amazing slow for 4 years, found it again. I sort of was maybe slow for 4 or 5 years at the start of my career, and then had 10 years of knowing exactly what I was doing. So that was the positive for me. So I think it gave me longevity in my career.
Amazing way of looking at it. Next question comes from Joel. If you didn't play for England, which other international team would you have loved to play for? And I guess he means potentially any era.
South Africa.
Really?
I think as a country, South Africa, the pitches are brilliant to bowl. I'd have been able to bowl with like Steyn, Morkel, Callis. So I think, you know, South Africa, my dad played in South Africa for a bit of time, captain Free State. So I think, you know, South Africa's always been a place that I've really loved. So I think playing here would have been really cool. In era of teams, I'd love to have played in that 05 Ashes.
Yeah.
Not sure who I'd have replaced in that bowling attack, but I'd love to have played in that for the, you know, I remember I drove up to Old Trafford and queued to get a ticket, you know, like the sort of drama of the series, because I had to go to one day, had to go and experience what it was about. So probably, yeah, the team I'd like to have played in is the 05 Ashes.
Cool. Final question comes from Lyndon. Do you fancy coming out of retirement for the Div 1 title charge for my club this season?
Only if he gives me my number 8 shirt back. I imagine that's Lyndon James, is it?
Potentially, yeah.
Yeah, no, he's. When I moved away from playing for Notts, I wanted him to have my number 8 shirt and my spot in the changing room. So wow. He's a great young talent we've got at Notts. Very good, head on his shoulders. Do I fancy doing a Jimmy Anderson right now? No, I don't think I do. But Lyndon and the Notts lads, you know, I watch every single game when I can. I follow the scores, and we've just signed Mohamed Abbas, which could be one of the greatest signings of all time with the way he could bowl at Trent Bridge. So yeah, sorry, just in a dominant stage and have an incredible depth. But in the next 4 years, Notts will win the championship.
I thought that was coming from a village cricketer or something. That's come from
Lyndon James. He's the number 8 at Notts.
Have you thought about playing at all? I know it's such a fantastic end to your career. Fairy tale stuff at the Oval, taking a wicket with your final ball, hitting a 6 with the final ball faced. Are you completely done with playing? I know all of these Legends League, Circle and that kind of thing, or are you very much focused on the media and family? I
haven't thought about playing just yet. Because I hit a 6 my last ball, got a wicket to win an Ashes game, those memories just sit so beautifully with me. But, you know, I saw AB's just come out and signed up for a Masters League and stuff. Don't really fancy bowling him again. But maybe there'll become a time where I want to have a bat and bowl will be fun. But just not quite yet. I mean, the thought of doing it professionally, no, because of the pressure and the, you know, just the drive you need to be able to do that. I think if you lose that drive, it's so obvious. It's so obvious when players' drive is gone, they just don't look the cricketer anymore. So, no, I haven't thought about that. You know, I'm not. I've had a few.
Edgerton Park?
Well, I've had a few messages about fancy doing a bit of league cricket on a Saturday, but no, that's not on my cards. No, would I bowl again? I really don't know. I'm really unsure on that.
Do you miss any part of it?
Yeah, of course. You're always going to miss part of it. You're always going to miss the moments, the winning moments, walking off the field when you've like worked so hard for a win. Taking a wicket is an amazing feeling. You've taken a catch, like helping your team get a wicket like that, hitting a boundary. There's loads of little moments that you miss, but you remember that's only probably like 10-15% of the job. The job is, and you need to give 100% of it to be successful. And there's a good percentage that I don't miss naturally, because you're never going to miss all the training days and all the recovery session, all that sort of thing that takes you away from your family, but you've got to do. But yeah, putting on a Notts or an England shirt for me was just a very, very special feeling every single time. So you're always going to miss that.
There's one question here that I would love to ask you, actually. It comes from Emma. If you were starting your career now, do you think a young Stuart Broad would have been sucked in by the money in franchise cricket rather than focusing on red ball cricket? And I guess I just want to add to that as well, like if you were to give your younger self, maybe put your arm around Stuart Broad after being hit for a few sixes by Yuvraj.
Yeah, I mean, the game, I don't think I necessarily just focused on red ball cricket. I still, you know, I played 100 odd ODIs, 50 odd T20s. I played until I was sort of 28 on that, and then the sort of white ball revolution came, and I got sort of almost like pushed towards red ball cricket in a sense that I didn't get picked for the white ball teams. And when you're playing that much Test cricket, you don't have the freedom in your calendar to play a lot of franchise cricket either, because the Test cricket tours are long, etc. So I always enjoyed playing white ball cricket, not as much as I enjoyed red ball cricket, because of the feelings of satisfaction that red ball cricket give you as a bowler. But the game's changed unrecognisably since I started. And as a young cricketer now, of course, it would not be a great career choice to look at just red ball cricket because of the amount of opportunities in franchise cricket around the world. And that's amazing for the game, because it used to be you had to be a top flight international cricketer to have a proper like worldwide career. Now you can be an okay cricketer and play in a lot of different leagues, you know, and that's great for the game, wonderful for players' opportunities. So, you know, it's given the sort of okay cricketer the chance to earn fantastically well, which is brilliant for our game. Gives you opportunities to get better and learn and play in different parts of the world. So as a 20-year-old now, you'd want to be working on all your skills, because ultimately, if you're a quality cricketer, you can handle any format generally. That's how it works. Of course, you can have different skill sets of power hitting and etc. But the best are still the best. But yeah, I mean, the IPL wasn't necessarily loved or as available for England players when I was early 20s. It just wasn't. Whereas now it's actively encouraged. So that's one thing I would love to have played in. And yeah, if I was a young player, you'd definitely be working very hard on white ball skills to make yourself attractive to the way the game is going.
Brilliant. Broady, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it. See you guys next time on the Cricket District Show.